Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zach and today I am driving a 2016 Toyota Highlander. Up front is a 3.5 liter V6 that has been supercharged, and down below is a 6-speed automatic transmission. And it shouldn't be a mystery of why I am super excited to be driving this Highlander. It has a lot of modifications done to it, of which I have never seen before or heard about someone doing to a Toyota Highlander. So this is going to be an interesting one, and this is going to be a wacky one. But if you would like to submit your own modified or unmodified vehicle to be reviewed here on the channel, you can do that at zachpradel.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form, takes under a minute to fill out, and I come to you. But let's get back to that supercharged engine. Well, from the factory, this comes with the 3.5 liter V6 from Toyota. It's a very, very run-of-the-mill engine. They use it in almost all of their products. If they got a V6, 9 times out of 10 in the last 15 years, it's been the 3.5 liter. The Lexus RX 350 uses a version of this engine. The IS 350 uses a version of this engine. The Tacoma, the Sienna, the Camry all use a version of this 3.5 liter, and that's only vehicles sold here domestically and vehicles that I could think of off the top of my head. It's a very, very known engine, and that was a huge advantage when the owner wanted to supercharge it. So let's talk about the modifications. Buckle in, boys and girls. This is gonna take a second. So the owner has placed an HKS GTS 7030-7040 supercharger kit making 7 PSI. It has a Toyota Tundra 4.7 liter V8 76mm throttle body with Underdog Racing Development 70 to 76mm adapter, short air ram intake from a Toyota Camry with a 3-inch AEM air filter. It has a custom VF tune, a TRD 170-degree thermostat, a TRD 18.5 PSI radiator cap, a non-stop tuning crankshaft pulley, and a Hayden Automotive 516 transmission cooler. So the owner actually did add a larger transmission cooler to this vehicle to keep up with the extra power. The supercharger kit was actually originally made for a Japanese market minivan called the Toyota Velfire, but because it had the same engine and same transmission as this car, the owner said, hey, I think that'll work on my Highlander. And so it does. A couple of other supporting mods like suspension and wheels. This has Koning Hypergram 18 by 8.5 inch with 35 millimeters of offset. It has RSR lowering springs with a 1.5 inch drop. It has Bilstein B6 shocks and Siberian polyurethane sway bar bushings. It has a big brake kit up front with 4 piston calipers and 2-piece rotors. It has rear EBC green stuff brake pads, power stop, extreme drilled and slotted rear rotors. And for the exhaust, it has a dual axle back exhaust with 2 MagnaFlow 14832 straight through mufflers, a Vibrant Performance 1792 straight through resonator, Vibrant Performance 1141 ultra quiet resonator, Weapon R Sienna race headers, and a modified Walker Y-pipe. All of that together, the owner predicts it makes around 400-ish horsepower. But let's get it out on the road and see how it feels. Not bad. You don't really get much sound from the supercharger. It's not whining in your ear. It's just there to do a job. It's so Toyota. Because to me, Toyota is like such a corporate company that all of their products, you know, I feel like all of their products wear business suits and have ties and things like that. And so this supercharger, although it's a supercharger which should be wet and wild, it goes, yes, I make you go faster. You are going faster now. You will get my invoice in the mail. It's just, to me, it's like kind of fun. Like, that's the most Toyota thing in the world. All said and done, he had a shop install the supercharger kit. It took them about 10 hours to do. It was around $2,000 for the kit, about $1,000 in labor. So $3,000 out the door ain't a bad deal. Now, like I mentioned, this does have the stock automatic transmission. However, it does have a bigger transmission cooler to help out with that added load that the supercharger adds. But beyond that, it's all stock. Last but not least, the Highlander is all-wheel drive. So how does it feel to actually drive a supercharged Toyota Highlander? Something I never thought I would be saying. Well, the supercharger doesn't completely blow you away. I'm not living in fear of regurgitating my lunch while driving it. However, what it does do is it makes the car just more. It's like modifying a speaker system. When you add nice speakers to a car, the volume doesn't go up any higher, but the experience of going up to that said volume is a lot better. It just makes the entire thing better, and that's how the supercharger feels. The exhaust system, as I mentioned, is heavily modified. It doesn't bark, it doesn't bite, and moving at a decent rate of speed, driving around town, I barely even notice it, which is good. It's not drony. It's not... It's nice. It's civilized. And I didn't expect to say that after a highly modified exhaust. The steering feel really caught me off guard. It almost feels as though this has over-boosted power steering. It's very, very light and very nimble. Something I would expect out of like maybe a Camry or Corolla or some little car. This steering is incredibly light, and that I definitely wasn't expecting. But overall, the driving experience has been superb, and I'm sad that Toyota didn't offer a TRD or GR Racing Highlander. There's still time. They still make the Highlander, and the GR brand for Toyota has been doing really well, so maybe we will get a GR Highlander someday. But for now, this is as close as I'll get, and I'm very happy with it. Now, we will talk about the interior next, and this is a little modified, but not super modified. So if you're just here for the supercharger kit, you can find down in the description below. There are chapter markers, and you can skip to the final thoughts segment if you only care about what's under the hood. But let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have the stock gauges. On the left is my tachometer and coolant temperature, and off to the right is my speedometer and fuel. And then I get this little digital gauge down in the center, giving me some really nice information. I like how many different colors are in here. This feels very premium, and this is still what Toyota uses in their modern products 7 years later, so I feel right at home. Now, the steering wheel has been swapped out. This is a custom steering wheel. It's been hydro dipped in a carbon fiber style, and I really, really like the grips. I like the feeling of it. It is perforated leather on the actual grips itself, and overall it's a very pleasurable experience. On the steering wheel, I do have buttons for volume, skip track, mode, and phone options, and off to the right I have my selectors for that gauge cluster screen that we mentioned earlier. Up on the dashboard, I do have an added gauge. Again, this isn't factory, but this is an AFR gauge for the engine, air-fuel ratio. The reason I wanted to point this out is because I actually learned something this morning from the owner, and he told me that the standard factory AFR reading that the ECU gets never goes below 12. Toyotas can't read AFR below 12. So he actually added his own. This is a wide band, where the stock Toyota one is actually called a mid band because it has those restrictions. So something to note if you do want to modify your Toyota, an aftermarket wideband AFR gauge is a good and smart thing to do. I do have a climate control vent down below that, and an added LED light bar switch, heated windshield wipers factory, and the rear tailgate release. I have a couple thoughts about the tailgate that I'll share soon. Moving out of the door, we have the power mirrors, power locks, and power windows. Nothing really to report there. Moving into the center, I do get a little digital clock. This is factory for the Toyota Highlander. And then I have an aftermarket radio, which I'm actually a decent fan of. This is an Alpine radio, and I have to say, for filling in the gap, it's not bad, and it looks decently modern. It does kind of come off the dash a little bit, but with radios being integrated into the dash so much, kind of not a whole lot that you can do. Down below that, we do have our climate controls. I get dual zone, which is really, really nice to see. And then I get this nice little shelf, which has a pass-through in it. And then moving down below, I do have a boost gauge. Like I said, this supercharger does put out 7 pounds of boost, but it's nice to actually have that gauge to see what it's doing. And of course, this is aftermarket. But I do have some factory buttons like a center locking diff, hill descent control, and snow mode. Kind of interesting there. We have the shifter down below all of that. Off to the left, this is the Jigsaw style shifter, which I've come to know and love from Toyota. No shock there. Funny enough, I actually have a Lexus RCF Track Edition on test this week as my press car, and it has the same exact shifter. Here in 2023 for $105,000, you still get the same shifter. God bless Toyota. But off to the right, we do have cup holders, so we will do a big friggin' bottle test here in the Toyota Highlander that has been supercharged. And I'm happy to report that it does in fact pass. So not only is this a cool, wacky, and weird automobile to drive, I can also bring my cool, wacky, and weird oversized water bottle with me. Then we have our heated seat controls and a center console, which opens in a rather peculiar way. You can open up this little window if you want, but I can barely stick my arm through it. And then you can open up this larger window, which allows more access. Not really sure the benefit of doing this from Toyota besides just looking nice, but hey, that was a decision that they made. The seats are leather, they are comfortable, they are power, and like I said, they are heated, so pretty much anything I could want from a modern seat I have here in the Highlander. However, speaking of seats, we do have back seats, so let's go do a back seat review. All right, so we're in the back of the 2016 Toyota Highlander, and there is loads of space. I have this much space between my knee and the seat in front of me. I'm very comfortable. I get leather seats back here as well. I also get my own climate controls back here. So I have fan speed off, where to send it, and temperature, which are all fantastic features. Besides that, nothing too crazy. I do have a center console here, 2 cup holders, but not, anything record-breaking. This does have a third row. At least from the factory, it does have a third row seat. The owner removed it because he said that they never really used it. It was really only good for small children, which he doesn't have to worry about. So he just removed the third row. So that's why we're not getting a third row review today. One thing I will note is I do get sunshades, which is very, very nice. Anyway, let's hop out. We'll take a quick look at the trunk and cargo space. Then we'll talk about the looks, and then we'll get back to that sweet supercharged drivetrain. So, according to the owner, it has been this way forever, but it is the slowest power tailgate ever. He said it was like this new. There we go. Jeez. Now coming back here, like I said, those rear seats have been removed. That's where they would normally go. I do get this little opening storage container, and what I really like, you could see right there, and listen, it actually clicks in. So this piece doesn't rattle around while you drive. A lot of cars, they don't have that click, and so this panel rattles when you hit bumps. Not the case here in the Highlander. I do get a little light over here, which has been LED swapped. And overall, plenty of cargo space once the third row is removed, which is very nice to see. I also forgot to mention that the rear glass opens, one of my favorite features on SUVs. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and like I said, this does have the 1.5-inch lowering springs, the coning wheels, big brake kits, and the owner has done some carbon fiber vinyl wrap on the hood and roof and gas cap, so it does look a little bit different. It also has 2019 Toyota Highlander taillights swapped onto it, a little bit more modern, and they bolted right in, minus having a 2-prong to 3-prong jumper. But with all of this being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think driving I would say, relatively heavily modified Toyota Highlander? What's it like to drive a supercharged Highlander? What are my thoughts? Well, I don't really have anything negative to say. The engine, I know, is really reliable. The only thing you should look out for on the 3.5 liter really are water pump issues. They start to weep around 50,000 miles. You just get it replaced and they seal it up nice and good. So that's really a non-issue. Driving this modified Highlander makes so much sense, and yet at the same time, no sense at all. What I mean by that is that I wouldn't seek out a Highlander to modify. I think if I were looking for a vehicle that I wanted to supercharge, the Highlander probably wouldn't be at the top of my list, let alone on my list at all. As a complete package with the supercharger, with all of the modifications, this actually makes a lot of sense, and it's a really good vehicle to drive. As I mentioned with the driving feel, the engine just feels like it has more. It doesn't feel like I'm stressing out the 3.5 liter. It doesn't feel like I'm pushing its buttons and getting it pissed off. It just works better. It's like getting a high flow shower head can make your morning routine so much better. And I think what this really speaks to is how plug and play and how versatile Toyota products are. This is a supercharger kit for a minivan sold thousands of miles away from here. And yet with very little modification, it bolted right to this car. The owner told me they had to adjust the intercooler mount a little bit, and the header for the Toyota Sienna had to be extended about 2 inches worth of piping, but that's it. And not only that, with the tune, this drives like it should have come this way from the factory, but it didn't. Toyota never offered something like this. And I think it's a grand shame that they didn't, because this car is so good. The Highlander never got a V8 option. I think mostly because they didn't want to dip into 4Runner sales and diplomacy. But this sort of fills a gap or issue that I had with the Highlander. This makes it a little bit more entertaining. This makes it fun to drive. This makes it powerful. This makes it reasonable. And the owner has said that since supercharging it, he hasn't really had an issue. He's done over 3,000 miles, and it's been smooth sailing. And so all of this just speaks to Toyota's products. I get it, they didn't build this how it is today, but they made all the parts that did make it how it is today. And so my hat is tipped to the Toyota Motor Corporation. This is unique. I hope you guys enjoyed checking out this weird Highlander. Huge thank you to Jurgen for letting me take out his Highlander. When I got this email and it said supercharged, I immediately was like, did TRD do a special edition? Was there like a import edition? And no, he did it himself. And so I knew I had to check it out. So huge thank you to him for making this video possible. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.